A total of 9 goblins are now attacking me, 8 regular goblins with 1 goblin swordsman mixed among them. As for the swordsman, he's only holding a scimitar about 60 centimeters tall, but compared to the others carving knives it can really be called a magnificent sword. I hit the goblin rushing at the forefront in the temple with my hammer. Bang, one hit, one kill. The goblin dissolves into motes of light and disappears before it can even fall to the ground. It's too early to be happy though. I've only killed one. Scared of attacking on their lonesome, 2 goblins coordinate their attacks from both my sides. Each one with a carving knife in hand. I dash to the right and push one back with my shield, which lets me pivot and hammer the other. Thud, this is the second, but I don't have the time to even catch my breath because someone has already reached my rear and jumps in from behind the goblin swordsman. It makes a screeching hiss like a snake. I immediately hit the floor with a roll. A blade passes above me with a sharp sound. The goblins, seeing me rolling on the ground, rush in. This is why the second floor is several times more dangerous than the first. It's impossible to deal with 4 normal goblins from this position, no matter how superior you are physically. I have no choice but to suffer a few injuries. Had I been alone, that is, another arrow shot from the bushes pierces a goblin's forehead. Seems Owen's gotten back to sniping. Thud, I quickly bounce back up from where I'd been rolling on the floor. With shield in hand, I rush into the middle of the enemy lines. It's natural for a warrior to draw aggro, isn't it? You little fuckers, all of you, come on, blocking with the shield, swinging the hammer, dodging, kicking with my feet, headbutting, etc. While I run rampant in the middle of the goblin formation, teetering on the edge of the seething madness within my barbarian blood, Rowan, who's re-established her position, fires arrows like crazy. The arrows fired every 2 to 3 seconds are a great distraction for the goblins. Maybe because she's in a bit of a hurry. But not every arrow hit a critical point: shoulders, arms, stomach, chest, thighs, etc. It always hit somewhere. Some of the arrows were even infused with spirits, and the arrowheads burst into flame on impact. So as to not lose to her, I keep smashing the goblin bastards' heads with my hammer one by one, keeping my distance because I'm wary of the arrows. Bang, thud. It takes little time for the number of goblins to be reduced to 2. And they begin to run away. I handle the one jumping like crazy, and Erwin puts an arrow on the back of the head of the other. You have defeated a goblin swordsman, EXP +1. Seeing the battle was over, Erwin, who'd been hiding in the bushes, appears and approaches me. Uncle, are you injured? Fine, how about you? Me too. Good, then let's collect the mana stones. After that we split into 2 and walk around picking up the arrows and the mana stones. I did defeat the goblin swordsman in the melee, but getting his scimitar is impossible. Because all their clothes and weapons have disappeared into motes of light, same as the first floor. Here's 6 in total. We managed to harvest a total of 11 mana stones, including the 2 that Owen killed first from ambush. Considering the fact that I made only 44 by walking around all day on the first day, I am more than satisfied. This battle took less than 2 minutes. In contrast, come on, take them. 2, thank you. I take 9 and Erwin gets 2. Although they're all 9th grade, the swordsman has a bit more weight than the general goblins, so I took that into consideration while distributing the loot. Can we just keep doing this? Yeah, was there anything that made you feel uncomfortable or dangerous during this battle? No, there really wasn't. After that, it's time to review the battle and find possible improvements in the fighting tactics. We haven't been able to find anything to fix right now, but that's just proof that we're still immature. As the number of battles increases and experience accumulates, our tactics will naturally get better and more refined. Okay, then let's finish up here and move on. Yes, I checked the time one last time, 1:31. How much income can I earn by the end of the 4th day? I wonder. We circled around the portal, slowly expanding the radius. And after increasing the radius by more than 3 kilometers, we actually started encountering a group of goblins about once every 5 minutes. And naturally I met a goblin archer. The goblin archer, who had a slightly more distinctive sound than Gruck, was definitely a menacing opponent. It wielded a small short bow that resembled a harp, and unlike the other goblins, the arrowheads were poisoned. It even knew how to use stealth magic. But you have defeated a goblin archer, EXP +1. As long as I concentrated, this barbarian body could react to flying arrows, and it was possible to dodge them or block with a shield. Well, I did still have to be careful. There's one more goblin archer. Take it out first. Yes, no matter how much of a barbarian you are, an arrow to the head is still an insta kill. When I got back to the city, I'd have to buy a helmet first. Let's rest for a while. At last, after finishing one more battle, we moved to the empty area near the portal for some rest. You can sleep first if you want. Really, she really didn't stand on courtesy. As I smiled and nodded my head, she sat down on the bare floor and glanced at me like a tired puppy. What about the backpack and blanket? Here you go. I put down the heavier bag and took out a blanket, and less than a minute later I could hear snoring. Compared to the traditional barbarian style, it sounded infinitely small and gentle. She really was tired. Up until now, she always slept without making a sound. Well, maybe it was because she was now feeling psychologically safer. 1820 We hunted around the goblin forest for about 15 hours. We had to fight more than 10 enemies each time, but the more we got used to it, the less dangerous it got, and the faster we went. As a result, the income was rising at a rate that would have been unimaginable on the first floor. But there were some moments of tension as our patrol radius expanded. We started to meet other adventurers. So far we'd met others a total of 11 times. They were all groups of 3 or more, and sometimes there were teams consisting of different races. Each time we passed each other by from a distance, as was customary, but it was exhausting every time. I was more afraid of those adventurer bastards than the goblins, and now there was a reason to be especially vigilant. The problem is that she's too pretty. I looked at Erwin and sighed. Despite being a homeless wanderer for several days, she still had shiny silver hair, amber eyes that seemed to pull you in, and facial features that met all criteria to be called beautiful. As a woman she was lucky, but as an adventurer, well, who knows? Among the groups of adventurers we encountered, there were some bastards who licked their lips as soon as they saw Erwin. Let's hope nothing worrisome happens. Am I that pretty? What the fuck, weren't you just snoring? Go to sleep. Yes, as if she'd been talking in her sleep, Erwin roughly answered and immediately started snoring again. Really, who are you? The fairies I knew hadn't been like this. Day 4, Day 5, Day 6. After entering the goblin forest, time flew by quickly, and the 7th day is now about to start soon. The day has finally come to leave the labyrinth. When I get back, I'll sleep first. I feel you. There is only one way to leave the labyrinth and return to the city. Wait for the floor to close at the set time. The labyrinth spits out the adventurers on the floor back to the city. 168 hours for the first floor, 240 hours for the second floor, and so on. The higher the floor, the longer you can be active in the labyrinth. However, we plan to go down to the first floor and leave for the city just before the end of the 7th day. Today we won't go as far as yesterday, and only move in the vicinity. Yes, there are several reasons to leave early. When the first floor is closed, the portal also disappears, meaning there's no way to retreat if an unexpected situation occurs. The food too is running a bit low. There's also the option of buying food in exchange for mana stones from the adventurers you meet occasionally, but there's no need to overdo it. Above all, we only have no more than 10 intact arrows left. No matter how sturdy the arrow may be, this is inevitable because it's a consumable item. Had these been the wooden arrows from Earth, they wouldn't have even lasted beyond one use. It really feels like a different world. 22:27 Checking the time, we pause our hunt just in case. Let's go back. Yes, currently we are at a point about 4 kilometers away from the portal. It should take 40 minutes to reach it at most. Of course we can take some more time, but it would be better to go early than to be late and not be able to go down. Before we part, one have something to share with her as well. Be careful, another trap has been set. We're going back the way we came, but at some point a trap has been planted in the forest again. This means that the goblins have respawned. Well, just because they've respawned doesn't mean they'll suddenly appear out of thin air like in the game. You often see what look like rabbit holes inside the forest, and goblins always crawl out of those. So one time I tried waiting in front of one and had Erwin start a fire, but there was no response. I couldn't even check the bottom of the hole because the whole thing collapsed instantly after breaking the ground. Erwin walking in the front stops suddenly. A group of goblins about 70 meters away. At 1 o'clock there are 8 regulars, 2 swordsmen, and 2 archers. She's now so used to giving a perfect briefing that I don't need to ask anything. Are we going to fight? Long conversations are not necessary. At my nod, Erwin takes the lead as usual and clears her way through the bushes. Then she stops me with a hand gesture, moves about 10 meters further by himself, takes position, and draws an arrow. The arrow flies. It's probably the goblin archer who she hit because I told her to make them her top priority if possible. Uncle, alright, you go back. Erwin shoots one more arrow at the goblins rushing in and falls back, passing the baton to me, a process that's become so familiar by now. I rush forward, smashing the swordsman mixed among the regular goblins with my hammer. Thud, it's a good feel, so no need to hit twice. As I roar from the center of their formation, the goblins falter. Yeah, you better be scared, you bastards. Bang! The moment the goblins pause, I dash to explode the head of the other swordsman. I've been fighting them over and over again, and I've become a master of dogfights like this. Erwin's the same. The arrows start to fly in earnest. She must have already taken her position. There'd been times in the past when our targets overlapped, or I almost got hit by an arrow when our movements we counter to each other, but such mistakes have gradually disappeared. I've started to be able to roughly predict which enemies Erwin would prioritize and aim where in which circumstances. I don't think this is normal either. After less than a minute the battle ends when I hit the back of the head of the last goblin trying to escape. I'd heard that there were 2 goblin archers, but no arrows flew at me during battle. Looks like the first 2 surprise shots had taken them out. Well done, Erwin, but if you've already got all the archers, tell me. It's annoying to keep worrying about it. I'm not sure if the last one was right. Well, that makes sense. Inaccurate information can be really dangerous. She really has grown up now. I'm somehow feeling a bit happy. Hurry up, take what you need and go. Yes, afterwards, while I'm busy collecting the mana stones, Erwin calls me urgently. Uncle, there's something strange looking around. I see a ball of light the size of a fist floating in the air. I know what it is. It's the first time I've actually seen it. Essence, it's definitely from the goblin archer. To be honest, I was blown away as soon as I saw it. How lucky do you have to be to get this? This essence, yeah, definitely. What should I do? As one can tell just by looking at her reaction, essences are more valuable than treasures to an adventurer. Essences are the cornerstones of the skill system of Dungeon and Stone. Hey, will you become a goblin if you eat this? No way, you'll only get a fraction of the abilities that goblins possess. For example, the guy who tracked us down by smell on the first floor. He might have absorbed the essence of the Blade Wolf. What should I do? How many times are you going to ask the same question? Although the ratio is 9-1, she seems to be greedy for this. Do you want to know? It's not like that, but what if there's no particular reason not to give it to her? But is it an illusion that she somehow seems to be getting more impudent day by day? I answer her smiling. If you promise me one thing, I will give you the essence. Goblin Archer essence is not very attractive to me as a barbarian. It might be of some help right now, but the total number of essences one can absorb is fixed. If you want to remove it later, you'll have to spend a ton of money. Really? Yes, see those wide round eyes. A smile leaks out. It's strange to even think about it. Essence drops with a very low chance when hunting monsters. By the way, did the essence of a goblin archer drop rather than that of a normal goblin? It's lucky enough to be called beginner's luck. Is my bad luck finally turning around? At first I was going to tell you after we went down to the first floor, but I'll just tell you now. Erwin, hey you. What are you doing now? Damn my luck, as I'm about to get Erwin to promise me one thing, a cry is heard from afar. Don't move. A party of 4 human adventurers. They spot us from afar and quickly close the distance with firm expressions on their faces. To be honest, I'd expected this. Oh, uncle, this is the correct process. Did I get lucky? No way, I've been different from others since I was young. For me, luck has always been something you have to seize for yourself, not something that drops down from the sky. Erwin, prepare to fight just like this. The moment Erwin draws an arrow with a nervous expression on her face, I push her forward. Erwin, who was suddenly pushed from the back, has to take a step forward to keep her balance. And in the process her body comes into contact with the essence orb floating in the air. The essence effused light enveloping her form. Hey you crazy bastard, those bastards were aiming for the essence after all. Stop moving, I told you not to move. Soon a group of 4 adventurers arrive and halt about 10 meters away from us. But so what? The essence has already been eaten. I take a step forward, my face undaunted. Why should I listen to you? That essence was ours. I can roughly picture the following situation. If Erwin hadn't taken the essence, I might have been forced to give it up. We captured it by ourselves with Erwin's arrows, so I thought things would somehow work out as long as we just take it. If you want to fight, go ahead, I'll deal with you anyway. 4 versus 2. Although we are the numerically inferior party, I respond with a strong tone. The smaller the dog, the louder it barks in order to avoid fighting as much as possible. Humans are also like beasts in that respect, and if they look down on you, they won't hesitate to bite you. The redhead, who seems to be the group's representative, silently grits his teeth. Come on, think like a leader. If the essence still remained untouched, it might be a different story, but now that the owner has already been decided, there's nothing to gain from fighting with us. So it's wiser to just give up and go back. We demand compensation. What's this whining? You guys must have regretted a lot when the essence appeared and then disappeared in front of your eyes. But that's no reason for me to consider your demand. We took the essence we got by ourselves. So what kind of compensation are you talking about? Is there any evidence? It was us who just hunted that goblin. Do you have any proof? There's no point asking such an old-fashioned question. I mean, naturally there can be no such thing. There are no CCTVs in the labyrinth. In the end, words spoken by the one with power become the truth. Like I said, if you want to fight, go ahead. We won't flinch either. I respond stubbornly instead of any attempt to talk things out. If you're going to fight, go ahead. If you're going to try and talk us into something, fuck off. I don't even give them any time to think. I'll count down from 3. If you can't decide in time, we'll consider you enemies. Ah, uncle, why can't you understand the atmosphere? Be still. Can't you see how scared they are now that I'm going strong? 3. 2. We will leave. He makes his choice before I reach 1. Seriously, even if it were me on the other side, if a tattooed barbarian this large was the one counting, I'd make the same decision. Had it been me, I would have hidden the resentment burning in my heart, and would try and take revenge later. They might not know any better either. Soon they disappear from view. Did they leave? Yes, I think so. We'll speed up till we reach the portal. Take the lead at my instruction. Erwin starts clearing the way ahead at a breakneck pace. I have a faint feeling. Although we passed the encounter without bloodshed, it's not over yet. Any sign of those guys? I don't feel any. Oh, there's a group of goblins at 3 o'clock. What should we do? Ignore them? Yeah. Originally I was planning to leisurely hunt some goblins on our way back, but there's been a change of plans. To leave the second floor as quickly as possible, and if possible go down to the first floor and get as far away from the portal as possible. Hearing my plan, Erwin tilts her head. Will they follow us to the first floor? It's not about following, we just have the same destination. What do you mean? It's a simple guess. They were a party of 4, and 4 is a pretty good number to be active on the second floor. But why were they moving towards the entrance rather than away? The intention is clear. They too were probably planning to go down to the ground floor on the 7th day and return to the city. That's why we met here at this time. To put it simply, these guys came here to scout out the second floor just like us. So even with double our number, they were scared of us and ran away. Maybe it's not a proper party, just a loose group of adventurers that happened to meet on the first floor and improvised. I see. Erwin quietly nods at my explanation. I don't know if she understood correctly. You're amazing after all. So you didn't. I'll just follow your instructions from now on. Well, maybe that would actually be better, because people who try and clumsily work their brains are more prone to accidents. Uncle, it's a goblin. Leave it. But it looks like it's already found us. You know, it's running our way right now. What? As soon as I listen to the situation, I feel a sense of incongruity. From the 4th day until now, there hasn't been even a single goblin who noticed us first. That's how excellent Erwin's senses are. No matter how different these are from back then, even if we're moving at a running pace now, this can't be a mere coincidence. Hasn't she even absorbed an essence now? Try detouring in the opposite direction. Yes, at my instructions, Erwin turns. And that moment an arrow is fired from the same direction she turned to. As soon as I sense it, I grab Erwin by the neck and pull her back. Erwin groans because of how much pressure I put on her airway. It's still better to just get choked for a little while rather than being pierced in the neck. As soon as I hug Erwin and cover my upper body with the shield, the arrow bounces off it. Even such a glancing blow has so heavy an impact. Is it that bastard with the crossbow we met earlier? I could have avoided it. Erwin squeaks some words out. I'm sorry, but I don't have the time to listen right now. Was there? Just run. We start running again diagonally with Erwin in the lead. Uncle, you don't need to pull me like that. Even if there's another arrow, be quiet, I'm thinking. Erwin's voice tapers off as she bites her lips tightly. I continue my thoughts while we run, still being vigilant about our surroundings. I don't know how they managed it, but they lured out the goblins. And now they've set up an ambush from the opposite direction, trying to gobble us up. If I run away like this, will I be able to get to the portal safely? No way. Looking at the possibilities, I judge the chance of success to be extremely low. They have a crossbow in front of us. The goblins are continuing their pursuit behind us. You'd have to be lucky all the way to reach there alive. Well, I'm not a guy with that kind of luck, to say the least. I'm going to have to fight. It's time to catch a few breaths. During that, I come to the conclusion. Erwin, use your ability. I mean, use the power of the essence. The essences dropped by monsters contain their special abilities. For example, Goblin Archer agility +2, flexibility +4, vision +6, sense of smell +2, perception +2, cognitive interference +6, accuracy +8, poison resistance +4, obsession +7. Poison arrow. Poison damage when using a bow-type weapon. Thief step gains stealth. Increases stats and gives one passive and one active ability. This information should also apply in this world. There have been some variables so far, such as evil spirits, starting points, etc. But at least in these aspects the world has always been consistent with how things were in the game. Well, I don't know how to use it. I smile as I look at Erwin, who is looking bewildered at the sudden and unreasonable demand. It's alright. What's alright? I mean, you are already stealth. As Erwin keeps running, her body turns hazy. Although the effect is weak enough for her to be seen even from a far stop, when she stops walking the stealth effect becomes stronger. This is why characters move slowly in the game. As time passes while she stands still, the effect goes beyond translucence, and she becomes almost transparent. Although there is a clear sense of incongruity at the borders, it won't be noticeable except at close range in this dark forest, even less so. Wow, Owen exclaims as she looks over her own body. She's surprised, but so am I, although I think my reasons are slightly different from hers. There are no trigger words or anything like that. It seems to be a mechanism that activates skills according to just your will. Anyway, let's study this in more detail later. Erwin, take this. Yes, I hand the backpack to Erwin and give her rapid-fire instructions. Hide here, and when I give you the signal, shoot the crossbowman first. Never act before then. Understand? What do you mean? There's no time. I know you understand. I quickly finish what I have to say and immediately start running. Wait, signal. What's the signal? A muffled shout comes from behind, but it's much too risky now to go back. Step. I halt after moving about 30 meters away from the original position. At first I didn't even want to leave so far. If I'd stepped on a trap while running like this, I'd have been in big trouble. As I turn back, I hear the goblins coming from the front left. And those sons of bitches, I still don't know where they are. They haven't made a single appearance since blocking our first step. But I'm not worrying too much because it's obvious what those bastards are trying to do. If they had been fighting the goblins, they'd have showed up first. They must have lured the goblins towards us, intentionally. Returning to the present, I watch the goblins swarming towards me. There are 2 swordsmen among the 10 goblins. It's lucky that they don't have any archers. There you go. I run towards the horde of goblins as an arrow strikes my shield. Of course, I can't run freely like I used to, because not only the goblin archer but a human crossbowman also has me in his sights. After a period of about 10 seconds, another arrow flies, and it's the goblin archer this time too. After blocking the arrow with my shield, I smash the head of a goblin swordsman wielding a scimitar. In return, I get a stab in the shoulder from another goblin's carving knife. Can't be helped. You have to take this kind of risk. Once the number of goblins starts decreasing, they'll feel impatient and show up too. While beating the goblins up thoroughly as befits this barbarian body that I possessed, I gradually take more and more injuries. Forearms, thighs, flanks, etc. Individually, they're not serious injuries, but it's different when all of them pile up together. The poison is beginning to affect me because I can feel a tingling sensation spreading outward from the wounds. But risking it all like this has allowed me to kill a total of 7 goblins already. Arrows fly in. 2 at the same time. They come from different directions. One would be the goblin archer, and the other would be the crossbowman. It's difficult to block both. I choose to protect my flank from the crossbow bolt with my shield. Bang! The sound the bolt makes is different from the goblin archer's arrows. Is this the power of a crossbow? While I'm thinking, a goblin comes shoot an arrow on my left elbow. Shit, it hurts. Did it hit the bone? Not only is it painful, but I can't even move the wounded arm any longer. Fuck, I tried to stop the hit with my shoulder guard, but it's harder to do that than I thought. I throw away the hammer in my right hand without any regrets. I switch the shield from my paralyzed left hand to my right. If I have to choose between the hammer and the shield is always better. In the current situation, even more so. With the shield in one hand, I take care of the last 3 goblins and clear up the surroundings for the moment. The goblin archer also seems to have scarpered, and the arrows have stopped. I got injured while winning the first round, but have I at least pulled through? I shout, "Come out, you bastard!" I never thought I'd say this to a human, not a goblin. But really, are the 2 any different? Nobody comes out at my call, but projectiles keep being shot from afar. It's the human crossbowman. As expected, I have no problem blocking. But bang fuck, what is this? On every direct hit the crossbow bolt pierces the iron plate, and reveals its tip on the other side. One mistake, and will this hand also be done for? As I cover my upper body with the shield and peer over the edge into the forest, a voice reveals itself. Before long, barbarian, 3 people show up in total. A redhead, presumably the leader, a samurai with a single-edged sword similar to a Japanese katana, and a beanpole with a sword and board. The crossbowman is still in hiding. It really was you? Yes, it was us. How did you lure the goblins? I don't ask any questions like that, because that would only weaken my position. Come on then, is it because you're a barbarian? You're still full of energy even after dealing with so many goblins by yourself. Where's that fairy bitch? He's running his mouth a lot, but after all, this is the purpose. I think you've handed her your backpack too. It's better to speak plainly if you want us to be gentle. As soon as I hear those words, I can't help but burst out laughing. If you tell me, I'll let you gently depart. What kind of an idiot pushover do you take me for? Crazy? The leader frowns at my sarcastic chuckle. His face looks fed up. Apparently I look too much like a standard barbarian. There'll be time enough for questions once we capture you. The leader exchanges glances with his colleagues, and together they all slowly close the distance. Capture? It's a nice word to hear. Just killing me won't give them much profit. That's true. There must be several reasons why they dared make a surprise attack. The magic stones we've gathered for 7 days. The equipment we're wearing. Owen's beauty to relieve their burning fires of envy, seeing how they had to watch us get something fortuitous right in front of their noses. I'm feeling it all over again. Everyone, don't be anxious, just think of it as hunting a large monster. Seriously, there are too many munchkins in this world only chasing after maximum efficiency. Well, I guess the same might happen to me too in the future. I slowly raise my hand. I force my left hand, which hasn't been moving properly since an arrow with paralyzing poison got stuck in the elbow, to the top of my head. And what are you doing? I raise the middle finger high, so that anyone who has lived in this world can see it as a unique sign. Think soon. A faint sound echoes through the forest. Percy, the leader, hastily called out someone's name. Of course there was no answer, because I'd instructed Erwin to shoot the crossbowman first. What the hell did you do? The leader then asked me, but even so, did he already anticipate my response because he was being wary of his rear area, not of me? This was a very big mistake. I hate bastards who ask questions with already fixed answers. A lot too. Smash! The moment the leader's gaze turned to the bushes at his back, without hesitation I dashed forward and swung my shield. Unfortunately, I didn't feel the taste of impact. Did you avoid it? If it were a goblin, it would have disappeared into the light of the world without fail. Elise, now at the leader's call, the samurai dashed towards me, slashing horizontally with a restrained posture. Sparks bounced off from the shield with a metallic sound. What crazy shock is this? I almost dropped my shield. But despite being surprised, I ran towards the 3 instead to distract their attention and to give Erwin a more surefire opportunity. But another smash missed. Was it because they were adventurers on the 2nd floor? While trying to deal with them, I found the short reach of the shield to be particularly annoying for the first time, but the more I thought so, the more I narrowed our distance and swung my shield more aggressively. Then I heard the sound I'd been waiting for. At last Erwin's support fire had begun. However, the arrows didn't hit the forehead, neck, legs or arms because the bastard with swords and shield blocked them with his shield. I will stop the arrows, don't worry, and handle the barbarian. Somehow he alone didn't fight. Did you decide to focus just on the arrows? Again, humans are too picky compared to goblins. Bang! As I was receiving the samurai's strike with my shield, the leader sharply swung his sword at my left arm. Fortunately, I managed to react in time, so it didn't cut deep enough. I did get cut, but it didn't mean much because the arm was already damaged, and it didn't even hurt too much because of all the paralytic poison. Hey, what a monster! The leader muttered at the sight of me, not even blinking at the cut on my arm. Fuck man, I have an excuse. Not cool. Spitting out some swear words, I pushed with the shield and forcefully deflected the samurai's strike. Then came another support fire. Maybe she just changed the shooting position because it came from a completely different direction than before. Even as far away as she was, it wouldn't have been easy. Thud! The beanpole once again blocked the arrow with his shield. Are you some kind of outfielder? All you do is dive in with your body and block incoming fire. Just when I was getting irritated over the battle situation that showed no sign of progress, the shield that was looking like a hedgehog riddled with arrows began to burn quickly. Shit, the beanpole couldn't stand the heat and threw the shield away. Sorry, but our archer is a spirit archer. That's why you should have used a full metal shield like me, you bastard. Since the annoying shield had disappeared, Erwin also fired another arrow without hesitation. She hit the beanpole's shoulder this time. And then he lost even the sword he'd been holding and became a useless bastard. Elise, I'll take care of the fairy bitch. Only then did the leader grasp the situation, entrust me to the samurai, and run to the bushes. It was already too late for me to catch up. Shit, it seemed that I had no choice but to trust Erwin. Just stop and give up, barbarian. The samurai stepped back and spoke with a dignified voice. Really, fucking humans were always like this. What fucking bullshit is that? You're clearly trying to buy time until your leader comes back. Thud as I dashed forward and used smash. The samurai's face wrinkled. You afraid all alone? He isn't alone. I asked the samurai a question, but the beanpole was the one who answered, trying to stand up. In his left hand was the one-handed sword he'd dropped earlier. However, was it because he was right-handed? He wasn't any good with it. Your shield technique was also a wild mess. What's wrong with you? Taking a step back, I neatly evaded the beanpole's attack and knocked him down from a distance with a kick. The beanpole made an enraged squeal. I didn't know it would break like that. The beanpole fell to the floor, clutching his neck with both hands. I even wanted to use this opportunity to finish off the battle, but unfortunately my plan had to be cancelled thanks to the samurai. I couldn't get used to this heaviness behind the impact no matter how many times I blocked it. Why was he hanging out with these bastards? Was there some story behind it? I didn't know, but it was the biggest mistake this bastard ever made in his life. As I used smash, the samurai dodged with a familiar distance. Immediately I dropped my shield and reached out my hand, dashing once more, let's call it grab, while pretending to smash. Now I was too lazy to even name it. Wasn't fun anymore. The samurai who got caught by the nape of his neck looked perplexed. I guess you didn't expect this? I pulled the samurai towards me with full force, and instead of moving my left arm I used my mouth to bite his neck tear, and ripped it out. The samurai couldn't even scream. He took a step backwards, covering his neck with both hands, which was pouring blood like a fountain. His eyes blank, he crumpled to the floor. Uncle, did you handle that side on your own too? As soon as the battle was over, Erwin appeared from the bushes. Uncle, I spat out the chunk of meat on the floor and wiped my mouth with my arm. Fuck, that was fucking filthy. The difficult battle was over. No, was I the only one who felt that way? Fortunately, Erwin was looking no worse than when we last parted, as if the battle was over before the enemies even got close. On the other hand, I was looking completely shredded. Uncle, drink this right now. Finally relaxed, I knelt on the floor and Erwin held out a potion towards me. I carefully emptied a bottle of potion as if I was drinking a herbal tonic. Although it looked like poison, Erwin explained that it was better to drink it because there was no single deep wound anyway. Was it because I emptied the whole bottle? The feeling was completely different from usual. Lay off, something was boiling inside me. I felt pain as if small chestnuts were bouncing around my blood vessels, and my skin was so hot that I felt like I was going crazy. This went on for over 10 minutes. Uncle, be strong. Erwin wiped the sweat off my body bit by bit with the old handkerchief. Was it because of the poison? Or was I just that dirty? I didn't know, but the white handkerchief turned completely black. I'd have to buy a new one later. Finished. It's okay now, it's okay. Having grown a little bit leaner, I struggled to get up from the floor. Looking down, I could see scabs covering the cuts and stabs, large and small. If I grabbed another bottle of potion, these would disappear too, but I decided not to. This looks a bit ugly, so what if there are scars? I am a barbarian. Water, yes, here you go. At one word, Erwin quickly rummaged through her bag and pulled out a water bottle. It sure felt like being the boss. As I drank the whole bottle, my stamina began to slowly recover. Was the water this good? The veins that had bulged all over my body began to sink down. Take out my watch. With Erwin's help, I checked the time and stiffened up. 23:20. Damn, you don't even give me any time to rest. There were only 40 minutes left until the 7th day ended. If you can't get down to the first floor by then, you'll have to live for 3 more days in this damn place. Erwin, take off the clothes. Yes, no, they're clothes, not yours. I didn't have the energy to talk, so when I pointed at the corpses, Erwin loosened her grip on her front collar. No, leave the clothes alone. We don't have time, so just pack the gear, magic bag and backpack. Yes, knowing that there was no time, Erwin moved quickly. Oh, I'll go search that redhead and the crossbow guy too. Yes, be careful not to step on traps. While Erwin was away, I took the equipment off the samurai and the beanpole, throw away the chest protector, the katon used by the samurai, and the wooden shield that has turned into charcoal. After the equipment classification was over, I made a rough estimate, selected only those that looked expensive, and packed them up, and just as I was putting them in my backpack, Erwin arrived. It seemed a bit too heavy for her to carry 2 backpacks, but sorry, I can't help you because I have 3. I checked the time once more. 23:35, only 25 minutes left, let's run. Are you alright? You look tired. Never mind that. Erwin was full of concern, but seeing my expression she nodded and started scouting. So the marathon started. I'll follow you somehow, so speed up as much as you can and scout the way. Yes, I put Erwin in front first, and then I kept running while adjusting the pace. My body felt strangely heavy because of all the mental fatigue. No, was it just because of all these backpacks? Still, I can't leave these behind. I did all that hard work, so there should be a reward. Isn't that what you'd call a just world? How long had it been? Suddenly a portal appeared in the distance. Erwin, who arrived first, was waiting for me in front of it. Her expression, an interplay of joy and regret, was like a shoujo manga protagonist. Fuck, this was a kind of atmosphere that made me feel like I'd be left behind. Feeling a bit anxious, I pulled out all the stops and spurred my steps. And Owen first. Okay, since this was reality rather than a manga, I boldly omitted the emotional embrace and entered the portal. The burst of brilliance was the same as usual, but somehow I felt the light embrace me. The feeling of returning to the first floor was not much different from when I'd entered the second floor. That same feeling of rolling inside something's stomach. Hey, unfortunately, even the result coincided. No, was this worse? While I was almost jerked around by the head and thrown to the ground, Erwin landed fine this time as well. How the hell was this possible? When I was thrown on the second floor, I still floated in the sky and drew a parabola. But this time it was like somebody was pitching a fastball, me being the ball, obviously. Damn, my bones hurt. This is fun. Yeah, it would be. I too think it would be funny if there was a guy like me next to me. I got up, relaxing my aching body, and dusted off the dirt, and checked the time, 23:58. I was really close to being home safe. I didn't want to say I was lucky, then there would be too many things to blame the heavens for. If things go well, it's because of me. If things don't go well, that too is because of me. Living like that is best for your mental health. You worked hard, Uncle. Yeah, you worked hard too. We looked at each other for a moment, and said goodbye. Wait, I feel like I forgot something. Loot distribution. Oh right, Essence. Erwin and I both shouted as if we'd remembered at the same time. Essence, yes, you told me to promise you something. Oh right, there was that. Now I remembered what I had forgotten, but there was no time for a long talk. I quickly checked my watch again. 23:59. I looked at the second hand and there were about 15 seconds left. I quickly closed the watch and raised my head to look at Erwin. So that what was the name? I think it was something Black Whale. Let's meet at the Black Whale Tavern. Yes, Erwin nodded at my urgent cry. Now I thought I'd be able to rest assured. The labyrinth is closed. The character is moving to Rafdonia. Oh fuck, I didn't tell her what time. The light covering my eyes gave way to something softer and my vision returned. I looked up at the sky a bit vacantly. It had been a long time since I'd last seen something so bright. Well, it was still a gloomy gray sky. You gonna go home, Derek? No way. I finally came out after a month. I'm going straight to the tavern after washing up. I'm back. All adventurers below level 7. Please come this way. The surroundings couldn't simply be described as noisy. It was only natural since all the adventurers who'd entered the labyrinth were gathered in one place. Really, I had no idea there were so many adventurers in this city. It was like watching soccer fans cheering at Gwangwoman Plaza during a World Cup. I set my watch to 12 o'clock. Even if you spend a month inside the labyrinth, only one day passes in the city. No matter how many days you pass there, you come out at noon the next day. When I was playing the game, I thought it was just a quirk of the setting to improve the player's quality of life. In this way, even after visiting the labyrinth, you can continue your quests in the city without interruption. So I thought it was for the convenience of the users. Bjorn, son of Jandel. Who is it? It's a familiar voice. As I turned my head towards sound, I saw a barbarian of similar size as me. I remembered him quite clearly as he was the first leader. Karak, the second son of Blood, Nun the third son of Farron. What, so is Einar second anyway? It was easy for the tall barbarians to find each other in this crowd. Serum Kennick's fourth son. You came back alive too. I'm glad you look well. Karak, third son of Farron. I was really just standing still, but the barbarians started flocking to my place. The blade wolves were no big deal, not a single one could handle more than one shot of my axe. That's only natural if it was your valiant axe. Parman, son of Naren, what kind of reunion was this? It was crazy lively. They greeted each other by calling out those long names without a break, and praised each other valor. These guys were weirdly amazing. Your brains are filled with holes, so how come you managed to memorize those long names? Bjorn, what are you doing standing around? We're going to exchange the magic stones now. Don't you want to go together? I cleared my throat once and answered as loudly as I could, oh, I will go. You look pretty tired. There's no power in your voice. Yes, I'd thought I was putting up a good act as a barbarian, but now my confidence was disappearing. The natives were really different. There it is, the place that proves the bravery of a warrior moving along with the barbarians. I was naturally able to follow the procedure. As an adventurer, it wasn't a big deal. It was just the process of exchanging mana stones for money at the checkpoint. It's 24,476 stones, it's 28,420 stones, it's 41,498 stones. It was like some kind of checkout counter at a supermarket, especially when it came to speed. The officials sitting at the table were really quick at their jobs. They put the pouches of mana stones somewhere, like checking for barcode, and when a number appeared they took out money like machines. While I looked at the whole scene with a bit of curiosity, the savages around me, not knowing that they were embarrassing themselves, kept chatting with each other in loud voices. To earn more than 40,000 stones, that's amazing. Karak, third son of Farron, is a warrior among warriors. Man, was it because I'd been living with a fairy for the past few days? I couldn't get used to it at all. By the way, I needed to find her. When as well? How come I could only find these guys, not the one I was actually looking for? Well, I did in fact just stand still. Bjorn, son of Jandel, now it's your turn. As I was sighing to myself, it was finally my turn. I walked over to the table and put my pouches in front of the seemingly soulless official. Are all 3 pouches magic stones? The other 2 belonged to the beanpole and the samurai, but now they were all mine since about 40 minutes ago. Yes, as I nodded, the official placed the pouches on a scale or something, and told me the exact amount: 182,413 stones. A slice of bread was worth about 20 stones, so did I earn over 9,000 breads in 7 days. It felt like just yesterday when I'd been feeling sad about catching a goblin and earning only a slice of bread. Somehow I was feeling a bit choked up. It's 180,000 stones. Bjorn, son of Jandel, has earned 180,000 stones. This is the best record ever. Bjorn, son of Jandel, is the greatest warrior of all time. These bastards didn't even give me the time to get emotional. I quickly grabbed the money from the official and passed through the checkpoint, but as soon as I came out into the crowd, everybody could finally see my appearance properly, and the savages who'd come out before me began to tremble. Not just stones, he's even got a hammer. No, he's even wearing shoes. I'm so jealous. 3 pouches. Look at that watch. Does he even know how to read a watch? How can that be? Is Bjorn, son of Jandel, a wizard? Well, I don't understand your reaction either. Do you feel that reading is no different than magic? I am the first barbarian who went into the labyrinth naked and evolved into a civilized man. Fuck, I'm heating up because this praise is too freaking much for me to handle. Calm down, Bjorn. I am the best warrior. At the same time as I shouted, the barbarians also descended into a frenzy of enthusiasm. Then they picked me up and started tossing me into the air, but to my surprise I was feeling better than I'd expected. Well, everything had gone well after all. You can't make too much noise here. I'm sorry, I apologize, so don't raise your voices. I get it. Finally the madness subsided only after one of the officials came and said something. Then I regained my composure and sat on the floor like the barbarians around me, waiting for the remaining barbarians to finish passing through the checkpoints. That was then I sensed a certain gaze and turned my head to see a fairy staring at me through the crowd of adventurers. Owen, since when have you been watching? Hopefully after I finished getting tossed into the air. Whether she knew how I felt or not when our eyes met, Owen smiled as if she was happy. However, because she was talking to the beautiful fairy standing next to her, she quickly took her eyes off me. Curious, I listened into the conversation, and it was quite refreshing. Should I say that it felt too unrealistic to be chatting quietly and happily with your sibling? Sister, now I think I know how to deal with some spirits. Maybe that's why Grandma Greenthorn insisted that I make friends with them in the first place. Oh really? They say that the fire spirit has a rather quick temper, so you should be able to hear his voice soon. Well, so she's that type of person. I only have a barbarian girl next to me, so jealous. As I looked at Erwin with a longing for what I didn't have, our eyes met again. I wanted to tell her the time, so I mouthed the word out. Tonight. Erwin tilted her head, then smiled and answered in the same way. Yes. First of all, it was clear that this secret conversation felt quite interesting to Erwin. But I didn't know if she understood what I was saying. Did she actually say yes in the first place? Once I get out of the checkpoint, I should try and talk to her properly. The moment I thought this to myself. Why are you looking over there like that? Do you know anyone? Oh no, sister, could it be? At the question of the fairy next to her, Erwin waved her hands. Then, finding a gap in the conversation, she glanced at me and mouthed the word again. Sorry, I thought I got it right this time. Afterwards I could understand her gesture of secretly pointing at the fairy sister and shaking her head. It must have been because of this elder sister. Well, I didn't think it was a common situation. Bjorn, son of Jandel, where are you looking at like that? Do you know a fairy? Impossible. Naturally, there's no way that the greatest warrior of all time like you would ever know one of those vile idiots. I wanted to shut this bastard's mouth, but I couldn't. At that loud voice, the fairies around us looked at me with piercing eyes. Among them was Erwin. She looked at me with bitter eyes and nodded her head as if understanding. As I was looking at those sad eyes, I suddenly came upon a realization. What the hell was I doing? It's not like we were Romeo and Juliet. Let's go. Soon after, the barbarians finished trickling out of the checkpoints and started to move out. It seemed impossible to talk to Erwin, who was surrounded by fairies, no matter how long I waited, so I followed them too. Tiringly, there was another crowd in front of us. Dad, aren't you hurt? I missed you, brother. Here we are. Well, yes, there'd been something like this in the game. Put simply, the people here were families or friends of the adventurers. Let's go. I will open a path. I followed the barbarians through the crowd that bubbled with joy, excitement, despair, sorrow, and affection. Looking at their faces one by one, I felt weird. Lemurian, my husband. Where is my husband? It can't be. Sorry, he asked me to pass this on to you. No, I'd played Dungeon and Stone countless times, but it was my first time seeing those expressions everywhere. That could have never been seen through the 2D graphics from beyond the monitor. I had a reason for moving with the barbarians. Because, like the previous checkpoint, there were still more procedures for beginners to go through in this city. However, my expectations went unexpectedly wrong. Time for some alcohol. Let's have a drink. As soon as they came out of the labyrinth, the barbarians headed to the tavern. Are you kidding me? I'm going to get out of here. Why is that? Bjorn, son of Jandel, the best warrior. Even a modifier got attached to this already long name. Telling myself to be patient, I got out of my seat, giving an excuse that I had no choice because I had a place to go. May fortune be with you, Bjorn, son of Jandel, the best warrior. I was feeling it again and again, but all my predictions based on common sense didn't seem to work. It's finally quiet. Being with these savages for a while was already driving me crazy. Did Erwin feel the same way while she'd been with me? Next time I'd have to pay more attention to my acting. Thump. After breaking up with them, I aimlessly wandered around the city. I did have a destination, but for now I felt like I wanted to walk wherever my footsteps led me. Peaceful. The first time I'd seen this city it was midnight, but now it was daytime and the streets were full of people. Surprisingly, that gave me a sense of security. There were no monsters here, no one to hurt me. Even if you fall asleep on the road, you'll be able to safely wake up. No, maybe someone will even give you a helping hand. There were laws, rules, and leeway here. Of course, it was still a distant world, and unlike how it looked on the surface, I knew that almost everything, including their ideas, culture, and social systems, would be barbaric compared to the 21st century. But it was still so peaceful, at least compared to the 7 days I'd spent inside the labyrinth. I wanted to immerse myself even more in that sense of stability, so I kept walking. Maybe it was because the adventurers had just poured out of the labyrinth, but my blood-soaked appearance didn't really stand out. No one spared me a strange glance. But as I kept walking down the street, I felt like having a bath, so I entered the first and I got a room and washed myself. It was a little strange. More blood than dirt came out as I kept washing. After rinsing hard for about an hour, I now felt that the clothes I was wearing were too filthy. Damn, I'd have to go buy some clothes and come back to wash these. I was feeling sleepy, but I still went out to the street and found a clothing store. But how come? No one looked at me strangely, but I was somehow feeling embarrassed. I took off my top and wore just the trousers that were stained with dirt and blood, and now I felt like a savage again. Why, welcome. As soon as I entered the store, a kindly-looking assistant approached me. Although I was a barbarian looking like a beggar, she had a bright smile. I'd never seen such a professional shop assistant even in Seoul. Do you want some clothes? If you would like to make a custom order, please visit the building next door. Oh, you're looking for something to wear right now. I'm not sure if there's anything the right size, but I'll take a look. With her help, I was able to buy a pair of tight-fitting shirts and black trousers. The price came to a total of 2,500 stones. No idea if I got ripped off or not. I'd never bought and tried on clothes without any function in the game. Come back next time. Now that I was feeling more like a person, I returned to the inn. I'd thought this the first time I saw the officials exchanging magic stones, and I felt it again while talking to the shop assistant just now. This city exuded a strangely modern atmosphere. Raftonia. Most of the buildings were made of stone with multiple stories. No, it was hard to find a building with 3 stories or less on the street, and when I'd been washing it was with water coming out of a faucet. Life in this city might be more comfortable than I'd have thought. Returning to the inn, I soon dropped down on the bed, recalling the events of the past 7 days one by one. I realized that I was also a human being, not much different from Uncle Hans when I first fell here. My only goal was to survive. But what about now? In the end, I spat out the words that I'd wanted to say countless times but endured. I want to go home. I want to go back, even if no one welcomes me there. Slowly I opened my eyes. I closed them again and told myself, get up and get to it. As I recalled all the various homework I had to do in this city, my drowsiness started to subside. Alright, showtime. First I checked the time, 21:18. I'd come out of the labyrinth around noon, so leaving out the other odds and ends, I'd slept for around 4 hours. But was it because I finally slept on a bed? It felt incredibly refreshing compared to the last time I'd taken a nap on the ground. My stomach growled. I still had some leftover bread that I'd eaten in the labyrinth, but I decided to go out for a bite. In a world where money was no different from life, it felt like an acceptable degree of luxury. Even after washing my body so hard during the day, I still felt smelly somehow. So I had another quick rinse before leaving the inn. Trudge as I walked the night streets that were much quieter compared to the daytime. I was feeling a bit stifled, not psychologically but physically. The beige shirt that I was wearing was medieval style, with an open chest, laced sleeves and neck instead of buttons. There was a cross string like a shoelace on the deep V-neck. It was tight even with the neck opened as wide as it could go. I could see why barbarians went topless, because they couldn't get any clothes the right size. What a pitiful race. But where should I go? Right now my priority was to go meet Erwin at the agreed meeting place. The problem was that I didn't know where the Black Whale Tavern was. I was sure it was south of the Dimensional Plaza with the Labyrinth portal, but the city had been compressed in size by tens of thousands of times in the game, so that wasn't very helpful. So I ended up asking for help from some passers-by. Black Whale Tavern, was there anything like that? This is my first time hearing about it. Most responded that they'd never heard of it until a middle-aged man with gray hair. The Black Whale Tavern? I haven't heard that name in quite a while. You look young. How do you know about it? Must have been a decade since it was gone. Thank you for saying I look young, but the rest of it isn't very pleasing. You mean it's gone now? Yeah, it was a store that had been running for several generations, but it changed hands after the owner fell into gambling debts, and the name changed too. My hypothesis: ever since the labyrinth gained more credence, had the game been set in the past compared to the current era? After all, if so, issues like the evil spirits, or the relationship between the barbarians and the fairies could also be explained. It looked like I'd have to go visit the library first once the sun rose. Thank you, you've been very helpful. I don't think I've ever seen a barbarian as polite as you. I broke up with the native uncle after that, and kept wandering the night streets. Although the name had changed, but it seemed that the pub itself was still in business, so I thought I'd give it a try. I hoped that Owen too would come to meet me. Pydempus. Reaching my destination, I couldn't help but pause for a moment. I could read the pronunciation, but I didn't know the meaning. Was it in something like an ancient language from this world? I thought it was necessary to actively study the language which my brain somehow had naturally understood. Ha ha, if you're going to fight, go out and fight, you bastards. The inside of the tavern was exactly how I had imagined it to be. Drunk people, adventurers, music, messes, tobacco, smoke, even the occasional demi-human. As I was scanning that place standing at the entrance, I saw a flash of familiar silver from a back aisle corner, as well as a pair of slightly protruding, pointy ears, a form I was only too happy to find. Step one of the fucking drunk bastards bumped my shoulder, as he staggered towards the aisle. Well, that alone wouldn't have been a problem. Fairy girls, you look bored by yourselves. Do you want to accompany this brother for a drink? He went to Owen's place and threw out some clutch lines. Well, actually thinking about it was no big deal, but is it because this pub's in the gutters it's only got whiny rat bitches like you? Owen, did you transform or something? What rat? The fucking idiot could only make a bewildered face at that sharp sting of sarcasm. I probably wouldn't have done much better in his place either. Go away unless you're looking to get a hole in your forehead. Judging by the fact that she especially liked the forehead, I probably didn't mistake the person. What the hell? I had to go and check this out, but before that I'd like to get rid of that guy first. What are you doing? As I approached and grabbed his shoulder, the arrogant uncle quickly turned his head and closed his eyes right away. Didn't you hear her telling you to fuck off? I heard. Then why are you still here? Instead of answering, the uncle carefully skirted around me and went back to his seat, this time without a single stagger. And then, oh uncle, I heard the tone I'd already been familiar with. But I wasn't surprised because from the beginning I'd never really thought that Owen had some kind of split personality. It's the truth. Hey, didn't that guy also say fairy girls just now? Are you that barbarian? Because it was a corner table. It was hidden from view by a pillar, but there were a total of 2 people sitting there. Yeah, that barbarian is probably me. But who are you? Her older sister. She really had a sister somehow. She looked exactly the same from the side profile as her older sister. Your name? Don't be an idiot, you can call me Tertia. Erwin's last name was Tertia too. Apparently she didn't want to tell me her name. I see, Tertia. Can I sit down now? As you please. I sat down without hesitation and observed Tertia. First of all, they didn't look like twins. She looked about 3 to 4 years older, and when viewed from the front their facial features were quite different. The eyes especially seemed to hold a ferocious atmosphere, or maybe it wasn't just the eyes. Barbarian, I am Bjorn's son of Jandel. Whatever you say anyway. Why the hell did you bring this little girl to this pub, sister? You stay still. Owen felt the mood and tried to intervene, but was blocked. Things were getting pretty funny. Leaving aside why Erwin brought her sister along, I didn't think she disliked me just because I was a barbarian. I could feel that intuitively. I'd have to figure it out later. Tertia, for what purpose did you want to see me? Owen stayed out all night last night. When I asked, she said she was waiting for someone at the tavern all night. I wondered what kind of guy it was stringing my sister along. Wait, I don't understand. What do you mean last night? Trying to wash your hands of it. Looking at her face, it didn't look like she was joking. Owen, how many hours have passed since you came out of the labyrinth? 30 hours or so. Crazy. I slept for over a day, not just 4 hours. No wonder it felt so damn nice. I apologize, I didn't even know that the day had passed since I was sleeping. At my polite apology, Tertia gave me a look of surprise. I was feeling somewhat pitiful. She didn't even raise a stink over the fact that I'd slept for over a day and missed it. I never thought a barbarian would be punctual anyway. I had nothing to say. So, why did you tell Owen to come here? Well, there was quite a long explanation, and there were many reasons. I just cut it short and drew a line. I have no obligation to tell you. If you're curious, ask Owen later. Literally translated, it meant don't worry about it and lay off, but fortunately Tertia also understood my meaning. The corners of her lips twisted in a curve. How funny, a rookie who's just entered the labyrinth doesn't know his place. What does being a rookie have to do with it? Owen is an adventurer. Unless you plan to take care of her for the rest of her life, you'd better drop that attitude. How barbaric. Sister, uncle. While we were having a stare down, Owen alone was fidgeting impatiently. Soon Tertia took something from her pocket and put it on the table. Here's 350,000 stones. Why are you giving me this? Price of the essence that Aaron absorbed. Oh, so she was telling me to take the money and vamoose. I was very familiar with this kind of development. That was a staple of daytime soap operas, so it just felt weird. Why don't you take it, or do you have other intentions? It's not like that. If she paid with good money. I too had no intention of asking Owen for a promise in return for the essence. However, I had to hear it straight from Owen first. Do you have the same opinion? That is, Owen wiggled in place. Was she that scared of her sister? Originally I was going to discuss it once we were done sharing and were alone. But now that we were done, I decided to do it now. The promise I was going to ask you for was that you would help me until I got the essence I wanted. Is that all? Yes, if possible. I'd like to keep the team running even after that, but that's separate. No promise required. In future we'll divide the loot 5:5. In a nutshell, it meant having a 2-person party. How would Owen respond? She didn't take long. Sorry, it was a rejection. In place of Erwin, who was bowing her head, her sister explained the reason. Erwin will enter the labyrinth with me from now on. From now on, according to tradition, she had to go alone the first time, but I never intended to leave her by herself. I see, since the tutorial's over, a chauffeur was here to carry her for the rest of the game. Fucking bloodlines. If you understand, take the pouch. I decided to cleanly give up on Erwin. Although she was a good friend, there was no reason to forcefully stick with her, but the calculation had to be done properly. 350,000 stones is probably the half-average price of an essence, right? Of course, it's a loot you two earn together. From the standpoint as an old hand at this game, experienced enough to be called rotten water, I judge 700,000 stones to be a pretty decent amount. But the ratio was wrong. Then this isn't enough. There need to be 280,000 stones more. The promised distribution ratio was 9-1. Fine. Tertia pulled out another pouch from her pocket without a fuss. Suspicious. I checked it, and it contained exactly 280,000 stones. What the fuck? Was she just treating me like some pushover? Obviously, if I hadn't said anything, she wouldn't have given anything other than the 350,000 stones. Oh, you mean bitch. I could see why barbarians hated fairies so much. If your business is over, will you please step away? I have something to discuss with Erwin. What exactly do you plan to discuss? Another fight was about to start, but Erwin intervened. Big sis, thank you for taking care of me and coming all the way here, but I think you can go now. Erwin, I have to say my farewells to Uncle too. Yeah, I get it, you aren't a child anymore. Taking a deep breath and saying something she didn't even mean, Tertia finally looked at me. Make an oath, barbarian, that you won't sleep with Erwin. Then I will leave immediately. Yes, did I hear you wrong, sister? Well, I guess I heard right. Don't sleep with. Does it mean that all types of skinship before that is allowed? I swear on my honor as a warrior, Uncle Dunn. Finally Tertia got up from her seat, and oh, I forgot, thank you for saving Erwin, barbarian. Leaving a last sentence, she coolly left the tavern. Hearing the bell hanging over the door, Erwin drooped over the table. What should I do? I've never been treated like this before. Could sister be angry? She isn't. How do you know? Because she looked at you once before leaving and fucking snickered. You didn't see her? Wait a minute, if that's the case, why did she ask me that shit? Erwin scratched her head a few times before coming back to her senses. Oh right, apologies, I appreciate the suggestion. But it had already been decided long ago that I'd go with my sister. No apologies necessary. Even if it were me, a high-leveled fairy carrying me out of familial loyalty would have been a dream come true, although I couldn't imagine one of them willingly hanging out with a fucking barbarian. Well, just take this first. Erwin took out a small pouch and placed it on the table. Exactly 63,000 stones, the price of the crossbow as well as the mana stones the leader had. I didn't know what the actual amount was, but I had no doubts because it'd be meaningless anyway. How much should I pay if I divide this by 9:1? I took care of my share, so you don't have to pay anything back. Yeah, alright, I mean anything else at this point would be crazy. I left the backpacks the two of them had at my dorm for now. There are many things, but I think it would be good to see them for yourself tomorrow. I agree, because we'd already been together for a few days. She really knew what I was curious about. I didn't have to say a single word, but the loot distribution agenda was settled in an instant. However, moving to the next agenda, Erwin spoke with a more cautious attitude. Then how can I repay you? Repay? I told you I will definitely repay your grace. She did mention that in the past. Grace? Erwin gulped nervously. I guess this was why her sister made me swear that oath at the end. I wonder if she's expecting something strange from me. Stop teasing me out with it. Her eyesight had sharpened a lot. She noticed right away that I was messing with her. I can't think of anything right now. I want to order something first. Anything you want to eat? I'm not hungry. Then I'll just order mine. As soon as I glanced at the menu hanging on the wall, Erwin spoke as if she just remembered. Oh, then drink. Let's have a drink, please. Drink? Yes, I didn't even drink a sip yesterday on purpose. I wanted to drink my first returning wine with you. Erwin smiled brightly and looked at me with eyes that seemed to be fishing for praise. Returning? Come to think of it, there was such a custom. Well, it was a bit different from the feeling of drinking a can of beer after work for demi-humans who grew up in their sanctuaries until they reached adulthood. The week of first return had a greater meaning than one might think, but what should I say? In this situation, that's nice. This is when you say thank you, thank you. Thank you, we're friends who've lived together in the labyrinth. So of course we should be together for the week of first return. What the hell did she want? While I was pondering, Erwin scratched her cheek. Of course for you, this isn't your first return. What do you mean? This is my week of first return too. Yes, why are you surprised? Didn't I say that I was 22? Wasn't that a joke? So that's why. No matter what I said, she just kept calling me uncle. This was my first time entering the labyrinth. Is that so? Soon after, Rowan slowly peeked into my eyes, went to find the waiter, and started ordering on her own. The food arrived about 20 minutes later. You've worked hard, uncle. She was just going to keep calling me uncle. Look, like fine, do whatever you want. We won't see each other again for a long time anyway. You worked hard too. We drank, ate, and continued to chat. In the labyrinth we mostly talked when absolutely necessary, so this was our first time having such a private conversation. But things couldn't go on like this forever. Uncle, are you wearing a shirt today? Yes, and you are wearing a skirt. We've exhausted all other possible topics. Owen, didn't you say that you'd repay the grace? Yes, what is it? Then try using the ability you used back then here and now. Owen tilted her head. Now, whether this could really be called a reward, it was an important issue for me. What's the difference between an essence inside the game and an essence in reality? I needed to definitively confirm this in advance. Maybe I'd need to revise my training methods, but why all of a sudden? There's something I want to check. But isn't it illegal to use your abilities inside the city? You'd get caught right away by the guards. This was the reason why skills couldn't be used inside the city while playing the game. So there was no way at all? While I was thinking, Owen offered a suggestion. How about going to a place where there are no people? My place isn't an option. Other races are prohibited from entering. The fairies seem to have their own accommodations. What should I do anyway? Should I just take you to a dark alley? As I was pondering, Owen found the answer first. So I mean, how about going to your room? I guess that works. After I returned to the inn with a slightly tipsy Owen in tow, I started observing her body from up close. Of course, the oath I'd sworn on my honor with her sister was never broken, although I did wonder how much such an oath meant to me as a warrior in the first place. Owen, loosen up a bit more. Even if you say that. Currently I was forcibly stretching Owen on my shoulders. I think my shoulders are going to fall off. It's not even supposed to bend this way in the first place. Really, are you sure? Yes, on the name of my clan. As soon as I relaxed my grip, Owen immediately flopped down on the bed. Flexibility +4. Wasn't that obvious from the outside? Well, hadn't the game been the same again? Are you going to go again? No rest for now. Dungeon and Stone was a brutal game. Just look at the stats: body, mind, and ability. There are 3 main stats. But if you click the plus button next to one, thousands of substats come out. For example, if the physical strength of body substat increases, the weight that can be carried, physical attack power, etc. are corrected accordingly. Flexibility, even if only slightly. Evasion rate and critical strike rate increase. Vision, ranged weapon attack radius, and the character's visual range get larger. Sense of smell becomes a factor to enhance any related ability. And accuracy rate is literally the accuracy rate. Therefore, even if the body stat is the same at 50, the character's scope of action can be completely different depending on the finer details. Note that I found all this out on my own. It was information that neither the game production company nor any foreign users told me, so I had to repeatedly experiment numerous times and collect statistical data. Just because I wanted to clear this game. I could have never dreamed back then that this passion would one day come back and bite me in the ass. I'm suddenly feeling pissed off again. Back again. I was an old hand in his 9th year, a true so-called rotten water. However, there were some stats that even I never managed to find out the effects of. A typical example would be the Obsession +7 on the essence spat by the Goblin Archer, except for the fact that Obsession was a substat of mind. Everything else was a mystery. When uncle, I get so anxious every time you sigh like that. Can't you just stop talking? Has anything changed since you came out of the labyrinth? Like something keeps popping up in your mind, as if it's hard to bear something like that. I'm not sure. There's something, maybe. What is it? Tell me. Sweets. Yes, sweets. Now that I think about it, as soon as I came out I bought a lot of sweets and wolfed it all down. Did you usually hate sweets? No, I like them still. I think this was my first time eating that much in one day, right? Perhaps obsession just meant a desire to grow stronger, so there would have been no special function within the game. Well, my thoughts were getting complicated because this was a reality patch and additional functions might have gotten tacked on to the detailed stats. Same went for flexibility. As in the game, the more natural the body's movements, the easier it would be to dodge. In the appropriate situation, you can even pull off some outlandish maneuver and inflict fatal damage on the enemy. But is that all? Greater flexibility can even make it easier to get into tight spaces and better absorb shock on landing. That was not so in the game, so in the future I'd have to re-examine my nurturing method by synthesizing those aspects. Uncle, I'm sleepy now. Oh, did I let you rest too much? Her eyes were already half closed. I was going to check if there were any problems activating skills, cooldown timings, and stuff like that. I see. Go to sleep. Yes, I blew out the light and laid down next to Erwin. Didn't find it strange, and neither did I in the labyrinth. We'd both seen what there was to see, so it'd be funny to balk now. Just like that, my eyes too fluttered closed, and I slept again. I remembered her sister's words not to sleep with her at the last moment, but well, there wasn't any point worrying about it. She probably didn't mean something like this anyway. 7:35. I woke up fairly early in the morning. I'd already slept for almost 2 days, so calling to too early now might have been a bit silly. Uncle Water Erwin just woke up, so we had a quick meal on the first floor after washing our faces. Then we headed to Erwin's place. Because the city was so big, it took more than an hour just to get there on foot. I'm glad it's still in the same area. I feel you. If it had been on the other side, it'd have taken a long time, even in a carriage, for a so-called fortress town. Rafdonia was really absurdly large. You must stay quiet, you understand, because Big Sis is the only one who knows I'm working with you, Uncle. Got it. As I waited in an alley 3 blocks away from the hostel, Erwin trudged back laden with 2 backpacks. The backpacks of the leader and the crossbowmen who'd attacked us just before the end of the 7th day. The weapons that had been haphazardly shoved in were sticking out. Let me thank you. Also, she had no idea about their specifications. I guess everybody has to start somewhere. Weapons here, armors here, place tools and consumables separately. Yes, returning to the inn, we started checking and organizing the items in our backpacks. It took about an hour, but maybe because of all the loot it was quite enjoyable. Erwin and I sat side by side on the bed looking at the neatly arranged items on the floor. Are you going to sell them all? Except what's necessary. Then can I keep the leather clothes and belt that you gave me? Doesn't matter if you take them from your share. Then please. After classifying what to sell and what not to sell, we went back to the city. Except for tools such as watches and compasses, we decided to share expeditionary items and consumables such as potions, but sell almost all of the collected equipment. It's better to exchange money and buy something else than to use something that doesn't fit. It wasn't like I couldn't afford to now. Here it is. The place we arrived at was a weapon shop that Tertia had informed me of. Items for sale included a Japanese katana, 2 long swords, a crossbow, a 2-handed hammer, 2 daggers, and 3 small knives. A total of 350,000 stones. I'd been a tad worried because it was introduced via an acquaintance, but I just sold it all off because it gave better prices than any of the other stores I'd stopped by at for comparison. Wow! As soon as we left the store, Erwin let out the admiring exclamation that she'd been holding back. I was feeling the same. Uncle, isn't this a dream? Excluding the stolen mana stones, the money we earned from pure hunting for 7 days was only around 100,000 stones. But to compare that with 350,000 stones? Besides, the armors hadn't even been sold yet. Now I could understand the look in those adventurer bastards' eyes when they saw us. Equipment is money, a lot too, Uncle. How much is my share then? Erwin's eyes were shining with a longing for wealth. Just wait, we've still got a lot left to sell. The next destination was the armor shop, about a 10-minute walk. Here are 180,000 stones. There were more items, but the total value was less than the weapons. The purchase price was low because it was difficult to sell used armor, which was a convincing enough reason. Didn't we decide to just sell everything because of the size problem too? I will sell them for that price. You sure have a refreshing personality, as expected of a barbarian. Please come again the next time you encounter something like this. I'll give you a good price again. I will. After that, I stopped by at a general store and sold several items that had been judged unnecessary, and got a huge sum of 145,000 stones. Well, it wasn't all my money. Take it, 45,000 stones. Isn't that a little too much? With her leather clothes and belt, 20,000 stones were subtracted and exactly 7,000 stones were added. It wasn't a freebie because she was pretty. It was her share of the mana stones from the samurai, and the beanpole divided 9:1. I don't know exactly how much they'd be worth, so I took the 2 you gave as a guide. I see. Thank you anyway. After selling off everything, I checked my total assets, which now amounted to a whopping 1.4 million stones. It was a lot weird. I'd never had this much money in the first round, even in the game. It was a good start. Then let's break up. Yes. Why do you look so surprised? We've divvied up the money, so now it's time to go our separate ways. I have a lot of work to do because my plans have now gone awry because of you. Well, we can go to the central square together. Yes, Erwin's words faded into silence. As we walked along the road like that, we arrived at the central plaza, which was a fork in the path. Why suddenly so many people? Unlike the last time I passed by, it was buzzing with activity. Half the crowd were soldiers and the other half were there to watch the criminals chained to the pavement. No, calling them criminals might be a little too much, right? Ouch, they were not violent criminals such as murderers, rapists, or arsonists. The crime of these people who were trembling in fear, gags in their mouths, was tax evasion, in other words, because they had no money. A young woman in her 20s, a man who was probably a father, an old man with wrinkled hands signifying the harshest of lives, were all sentenced to death. Start the execution. When the tax collector shouted that, the soldiers shoved the man's head under the guillotine, and with a gentle sound, the man's head was sheared off and slipped into the wooden barrel in front. Some of the nearby crowd soaked the bread they'd brought with the dripping blood and ate in a hurry. Erwin started hiccuping at the bloodshed that suddenly unfolded before her eyes. Damn, what is that? What are those people doing? Why would you dip bread in human blood? There's a superstition that drinking the blood of someone executed by a tax collector will bring you wealth. Owen frowned as if she couldn't make head or tail of it. For her it seemed to be more shocking than seeing a person's head being cut off. Erwin, how much is the first year's tax? It's 700,000 stones, but depends on your race, right? It had been 600,000 stones in the game. There were some errors, but it was roughly consistent. Still, you don't have to worry because you've already earned that much. Yes, that's true, but it's not something somebody with a big-shot sister should say. Besides, I have no intention of saving this money for next year's taxes in the first place. For a simple reason, Owen. How much is the tax from the second year? 800,000 stones, and there's a fee when you exchange money. Taxes continue to rise until a certain number of years are accumulated, so now is the time to invest in yourself. The first year, when fees are waived and taxes are relatively low, is the time for rapid growth. Please spare me. Gag him properly this time. Next month I can pay the bill next month anyway. I'm glad. Aren't humans the most reliant on visual stimuli? Seeing it with my own two eyes makes me really feel it. Returning to the original world rather than such unrealistic goals. It's necessary to set clear intermediate goals and strive for them. For example, assuming my lifespan is 90 years old. When I said that I might have to spend the rest of my life here if I couldn't find a way back home, how much money do you need? Well, I guess I'll have to do some math. A house with a kitchen, medical expenses for when you're sick, and if you want to be able to relax with 3 puppies after retiring at the age of 50. 6th floor. If you at least reach the 6th floor, the calculation shows that you can skimp and save enough before you retire. Yes, therefore, yes, what did you just say? It's nothing. Let's focus on reaching the 6th floor first. Whether it's possible to go home or not would be something to think about later. 630,000 stones were transferred by level 6 adventurer Daria Whitember D. Tertia. You have sold equipment. You have sold equipment. Total item level drops by 43. You have sold equipment. You have sold. The character's current total holdings are 1,403,520 stones. Use this to increase your character's combat index. What surprised you the most in this video? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell icon for updates.